Leah's life story is more than just a biblical chapter, it is an epic tale of resilience, the raw pain of being unwanted, and the supreme power of divine redemption. It is the quintessential narrative of finding one's true value, not through human validation, but through the eyes of the Almighty. Leah steps into the biblical narrative burdened by a cruel fate, to live as a permanent shadow. The Bible starkly contrasts her with her sister, Rachel, who is glowingly described as beautiful in form and appearance, while Leah is mentioned with a detail that drips with pity: she had weak eyes, or gentle eyes. In an ancient society where physical beauty was a form of social currency, this wasn't just a physical detail, it was a societal verdict. Leah grew up in a painful reality where every gaze, every compliment, and every suitor's desire was aimed solely at her younger sister. She wasn't just ignored by strangers, she felt the sting of comparison even within her own home, where her father, Laban, seemed to value Rachel more, knowing her beauty could secure advantageous and strategic alliances for the family. Leah learned to settle for the leftovers, the quick, dismissive glances, the obligatory invitations, and the chilling silence of those who pretended not to see her. This sense of being invisible was the deepest wound in Leah's soul. She was present, yet never chosen, in the right place, yet never truly desired. Imagine the daily anguish of knowing you are never quite enough, always existing behind the curtain, watching all the good things go to someone else. The feeling of being treated like an outsider in her own family taught Leah a bitter lesson: her pain was never a priority. She learned not to expect compliments, not to expect affection, and certainly not to expect to be chosen. This forged a thick, emotional armor, an inner strength that was quiet and resilient, but also a relentless longing. She carried a profound inner depth, an unseen treasure, but to let it shine, she had to endure a harrowing journey to escape the definition of her worth based on superficial standards. This raw pain became the unspoken engine for all her subsequent actions, a burning, desperate desire to be seen and loved, even if achieved through desperate means. This is Leah's personal tragedy, not that she was unattractive, but that she was consistently undervalued. The most agonizing turning point in Leah's life was the night of her arranged wedding. The love story between Jacob and Rachel is one of the Bible's great romances, built on 7 years of labor driven by deep affection. Leah, however, was a mere pawn in her father Laban's devastating scheme. Under the cover of darkness, Leah was brought into Jacob's tent, taking her sister's place, becoming the legal wife but never the beloved one. When Jacob discovered the deception the next morning, his fury was directed at Laban, but its coldest, heaviest impact fell squarely on Leah. She wasn't a bride, she was an instrument. She wasn't chosen, she was a hated component of a despised plot. Leah, who longed desperately to be chosen, was forced into a marriage founded on lies and compulsion. Though Jacob was forced to uphold the marriage by law, his heart remained entirely with Rachel. Leah became his wife, but Jacob served another 7 years for Rachel, his cherished wife. This fact made Leah's existence in the new household infinitely lonely and bitter. She was the first wife, the mother of his first children, yet this social status never bought her the warmth of love. She lived with Jacob's icy indifference and distance. This silent rejection was far more painful than any open insult. Jacob looked at Rachel with passionate love, but at Leah, he looked with obligation and grudging acceptance. This was the terrifying irony of her life. Leah possessed Jacob physically and legally, but she lost him emotionally and spiritually. The aftermath of this deception didn't just hurt Leah, it initiated a ceaseless, silent war between the two sisters. The conflict, jealousy, and emotional turmoil within Jacob's own family tent are testaments to how profoundly damaging a foundationless marriage can be. Leah was rejected by the man she loved and simultaneously resented by her sister for the fertility Rachel lacked. In this environment, Leah saw only one desperate path to validation: motherhood. She resolved to turn her womb into an emotional battlefield to prove her worth and somehow, some way, capture Jacob's heart. After being rejected and wounded, Leah channeled her entire yearning for love into childbearing. For her, each birth was not merely a blessing but a desperate prayer, a strategy aimed at thawing her husband's cold heart. Her first 3 sons stand as living proofs of this inner turmoil, each name a sorrowful milestone of hope followed by crushing disappointment. Reuben, the Lord has seen my affliction. Leah believed this firstborn son, a symbol of strength and inheritance, would compel Jacob to notice her. She hoped his very existence would force Jacob to acknowledge her suffering and grant her acceptance. That hope quickly dissolved. Simeon, the Lord heard that I was unloved. After Reuben failed to bring the desired love, Leah confronted the painful truth: she was still unloved. However, she found a sliver of solace: at least God had heard her silent cry. This marks a minor shift, moving from demanding human acceptance to acknowledging divine confirmation. Yet, the ultimate goal remained Jacob. Levi, now my husband will be attached to me. By now, Leah's yearning had become desperate. She thought that giving birth to a 3rd son, who would hold a vital role in the family, later the priestly line, would obligate Jacob to stay and be attached to her. She believed the sheer number of sons would be the key to unlocking his heart. Yet, each birth was a painful reminder that her strategy was failing. The sons were born, but the love remained distant. Every child was a silent scream: look at me. Love me. Choose me. Leah had used her womb as a means to an end, to earn love, but Jacob's gaze stayed fixed on Rachel. This constant failure not only caused personal heartbreak but escalated family tensions. Rachel, though loved, was barren, and Leah's fertility only inflamed Rachel's pride and jealousy, creating an unending cycle of conflict between 2 emotionally wounded women. This brutal competition plunged Leah further into loneliness, forcing her to face the brutal truth: no human action, not even the supreme act of motherhood, could compel love. Leah's life reached its most glorious climax not with the arrival of Jacob's love, but with her decision to stop chasing it. After 3 failures, a profound spiritual transformation occurred when her 4th son was born. This time, the name she chose for him spoke not of Jacob or her pain, but was directed entirely toward the Almighty, Judah, meaning, this time I will praise the Lord. This was a life-altering moment, a theological breakthrough. Leah finally abandoned the emotional battlefield with Jacob. She recognized that seeking her value and validation from a cold man was a futile endeavor. The void left by rejection was instead filled with the comfort of being remembered by the Most High. The desperate need for acceptance gave way to profound gratitude. Judah was not merely another son, he was a milestone, marking the transition from craving human affection to being satisfied in divine love. From that moment, Leah stopped basing her worth on Jacob's feelings. She began to understand that God's love was enough, and being seen by heaven was infinitely greater than being ignored by a man. Even as the rejection continued, Leah attained something no other woman in that household had: the peace of feeling whole without relying on human recognition. She had discovered her true identity, not the unloved wife, but the daughter of a God who sees, hears, and rewards. This spiritual metamorphosis is an invaluable lesson: the pain of rejection is real, but it does not define your worth. Only God's love and choice can define that. This moment is what transformed Leah from a victim into a spiritual victor, paving the way for a far greater story to unfold through Judah's lineage. Leah's story serves as the most powerful testament to the difference between human perception and divine observation. While the world looked at her outward appearance and cast her aside, the Bible makes a powerful declaration: the Lord saw that Leah was unloved. This is a simple statement, yet charged with ultimate authority. While Jacob was infatuated with Rachel, the eyes of God were fixed on Leah. His gaze is unlike that of man. He does not look for the most beautiful or the strongest, he seeks a sincere, broken, and wounded heart, a heart like Leah's. God did not just see, he intervened. The fertility that Rachel desperately craved was granted to Leah. This was no coincidence, it was divine intervention, a response from heaven to an earthly injustice. While Jacob remained indifferent, God was quietly writing a new story. He was demonstrating that he cares for the forgotten, honors the humbled, and exalts the rejected. This blessing was not just a temporary favor, it was preparation for something much grander, he was shaping the lineage that would lead to the greatest of all kings and ultimately to the Messiah himself. Leah's life reveals a profound truth: you do not have to be at the center of human attention to be at the center of God's will. Often, it is in the silence, in the hidden corners of pain, that heaven descends and manifests. Leah flourished in this environment. Even without Jacob's love, she was loved by the Lord. Even without being chosen by man, she was chosen by heaven. This revelation gave her a new standing, a new identity. Her transformation was so deep that her children inherited more than names, they inherited promises, destiny, and a great purpose. The gaze of God is the ultimate source of justice and recognition for wounded souls. Leah's supreme glory lies in her irreplaceable role in salvation history. When we think of great biblical figures, we often recall Abraham, Moses, or Mary. But among those celebrated names, one woman is often forgotten by man yet honored by God himself: Leah. It was through her fourth son, Judah, that the Lord began to weave the royal lineage of Israel. The incredible truth: this choice was not made through Rachel, the favored wife, not through an admired or celebrated woman, but through Leah, the rejected one, the unseen one who wept in secret. This is a divine paradox and a powerful revelation of God's character. He does not choose as man chooses. He does not consider appearance, status, or prestige, he examines the heart. From Leah came Judah, from Judah came King David, and from David came Jesus, the Savior of the world. Leah didn't just enter the Messiah's genealogy, she became the foundation of that lineage. Her name, once tied to rejection, is now inextricably linked to redemption. Her journey, once marked by sorrow, became a symbol of eternal purpose. When we read Jesus' genealogy in Matthew 1, we find more than a list of names, we find traces of grace, sovereign choice, and restoration. Among those names appears the silent mark of Leah, the woman who exalted God even when she was unvalued by men. The message is crystal clear: God recognizes worth where no one else does. He builds eternal stories with those the world casts aside. Leah was a wife, a mother, a worshipper, and ultimately, an ancestor of the King of Kings. Leah's life culminated in a supreme honor, a final act of divine justice that proved God always closes cycles with fairness and mercy. After years of strife, competition, and emotional distance, Leah maintained her perseverance, faithfulness, and constant presence at Jacob's side. Rachel had tragically died giving birth to Benjamin and was buried on the road to Ephrath. Leah lived on. Many years later, at the end of his life, Jacob made a request steeped in profound meaning. He instructed his sons that he wished to be buried in the cave of Machpelah, where Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah rested. And crucially, Leah also rested there. It was Leah who lay beside Jacob, not Rachel, the wife he loved. The wife despised in life was exalted in death. The wife who was not chosen shared eternal rest with the man who never loved her as she longed for. This was no coincidence. It was God's signature on the final chapter, closing the cycle with ultimate justice. He showed that in the end, he honors those who remain faithful. Leah did not have a dream marriage or a fairy tale romance, but she possessed something infinitely greater: the constant presence and care of God in every chapter of her pain. And in the end, she received the undeniable honor. The recognition did not come when she expected it, but it came at the end of the journey, and when God gives the honor, it is complete, eternal, and just. Leah's grave echoes today, reminding us that God sees, God hears, and God rewards. Not a single tear of the rejected is wasted when placed in the hands of the Lord.